If you're not passionate about being on the radio, then forget it. Having God's gift of talent is an important part of the total package, but passion is the key to having a successful career on the radio. More than 100 broadcasters have generously given of their time and shared their expertise to make this book the best possible resource available to help guide you to a successful on-air radio career. Nearly all of them listed passion as the key ingredient in reaching that goal. The first question a radio wannabe usually asks is, how do you get that first break? To obtain the answer to this all-important question, Radio Pro reached out to some of America's top broadcasters. We begin with Gary Berkowitz, to whom I'm indebted for helping launch my major market radio career in Boston. He's one of the nation's most respected broadcast consultants. Back in 1979, he hired me for fill-in air work at the original Golden Great 98.5 WROR in Boston. Without his encouragement and support, I never would have reached the level of success I enjoyed on the radio. Gary says syndication is one of the big problems for those looking to get that first break. There's so much syndication, especially on AM, with radio talk shows like Rush Limbaugh, Laura Ingraham, Glenn Beck, and others, that precious little airtime is left for live local shows. Syndicated programs, he said, are fed to radio stations in all size markets across the country, which makes it more difficult than ever for future radio stars to break into local radio. There are fewer stations, especially AMs, to start at, he says. Fewer stations need or have live bodies round the clock, much of which is voice-tracked. With that being said, there are still plenty of places to start. Gary Berkowitz. Gary began his own air career while attending Emerson College in Boston. He worked at WEIM in Fitchburg and WSAR in Fall River, both of them night-quality stations in Massachusetts. Gary says if you really want it, you'll find a place to break in and, most importantly, to learn. The big difference in today's radio world is that many young broadcasters are bypassing the Fitchburg masses of the world and are starting in the Baltimores. That's both good and bad. Berkowitz believes small market radio trains you well for the big time. He also has an ominous warning to future radio stars. Be prepared to work long, hard hours and make very little money in the beginning. Take any job you can get in the station you want to work for. Be the go-to guy. Always have a can-do attitude. Be the one who always says yes. Attitude is 99% of getting in the door in radio. Berkowitz, a radio consultant who specializes in AC, that's adult contemporary stations, is well acquainted with a can-do positive attitude. As a 13-year-old kid growing up in Oceanside, New York, he was hooked on great New York stations like WMCA and 77 WABC. One of his earliest radio influences was Rick Sklar, the genius PD behind music radio WABC during its heyday in the 60s and 70s. I must have applied to him 100 times at WABC, Berkowitz laughs, but I never got the gig. Years later, we met when I was PD at Pro FM in Providence. He needed a summer place to store his daughter's stuff, who was a student at Brown. Well, Rick called me, and she ended up storing her stuff at our place, and he and I became fast friends. Only in radio. Moral of the story? If you want to get in good with a major market PD, let their college kids store their stuff at your house. Ted Quillen was one of America's first top 40 radio personalities. While on the air at the legendary KFWB in Hollywood from 1958 till 61, he was rated the #1 personality in the country by C.E. Hooper. Ted was also a personality with other great stations, including KRLA Pasadena, KORK Las Vegas, KFI in LA, and KFOX. In 2005, he was inducted into the Nevada Broadcasters Hall of Fame. Until his passing in early 2011, Ted continued doing what he loved, being on air. Still blessed with a great radio voice, he kept his hand in broadcasting with a classic country show on KDSS in Ely, Nevada, and a show on the internet on Rocket Radio, heard on your friendly computer at www.rocketradio.net/programs.html. Born in Oklahoma City, Ted and his family moved to El Paso, and that's where he was first bitten by the bug. He says, I listened to morning personalities on several stations, and one day I finally got the nerve up to call 2 morning personalities on KEPO. I went to the station and told them flat out I wanted to be an announcer. They agreed, so I became a gopher.